All right. I like it. We're live. And this is good. Guys, I'm just waiting for some of you guys to join. We're going to be talking about some different things today that are disturbing if it comes down to the presidential pardons, those kinds of things. And I'd like for you guys to share this if you can with your friends. And we're going to kind of go on some tangents, and I think it's important to. And guys, if you guys, no matter where you're at, please comment down below. Let us know where you're posting from or where you're watching from and all that stuff. Because we got a lot to cover today. And I'm gonna try to keep it within 10 minutes, so you guys can understand constitutionally where we're at in all of this. Because there's a lot of confusion as to what the president's authority is, and there shouldn't be any confusion because there's not a lot of authority given to him for power. There's really not, and so we're gonna try to get into this here. I'm sorry, I'm looking up a page real quick. I'm sorry, this is live, so I'm trying to do this as fast as I can. I'm so sorry, guys. Okay. Okay. Here we go. All right, so we're going to get into this here real fast. Are presidential pardons preemptive pardons, not just pardons? Of course, pardons are constitutional, but preemptive ones. Guys, again, please like and share where you're at. We want to get this going. So let's get into this. We just saw President Biden pardon Fauci, his family members, down to his aunts, Liz Cheney, Millie, all these other people who have not done anything wrong. And is it constitutional to do those things? And I wish I could share my screen here because I'm kind of going through Facebook here. I'm not going through our normal stream service here, which is bad. I hope this. I don't know if you guys can hear this video. I'm going to try to play it, and hopefully you can just hear the voices. This is actually Anderson Cooper, Rachel Maddow, and some other CNN hosts. And I want you to hear what they said about preemptive pardons when President Trump was going to talk about it. And please let me know down below in the comments if you can hear this. That'd be great. Good morning. And we'll go from there, okay? So let's... this is all new to me, so just give me 1 second here. The way I'm doing it.
Preemptive blanket pardons? I mean, I haven't heard about this since like Monopoly with the get out of jail free card.
Trump has discussed with advisors whether to grant preemptive pardons. What does that say? That he wants to excuse them for things before anybody's even saying there's an investigation.
President Trump, as he winds down his last few weeks in office, is considering preemptive pardons. What a mess. More as we know.
Wow.
So saying that some of the president's inner circle, well, they're telling him that it would be perfectly fine to pardon his family and other associates preemptively, even though they haven't been charged with any crimes. How much damage could be done to this country can he do to this country on his way out?
President Trump is reportedly considering
that was Don Lemon.
Preemptive pardons. Does this concern you? All these preemptive pardons?
Well, it concerns me in terms of what kind of precedent it sets and how the rest of the world looks at us as a nation of laws and justice. You're not going to see in our administration that kind of approach to pardons. Nor are you going to see in our administration the approach to making policy by tweets. It's just going to be a totally different way in which we approach the justice system.
Isn't that something? So they basically said preemptive pardons are discussed. They're not even, what is he doing? How can you pardon someone who has not committed a crime? I think we're all asking that same question. How can you pardon someone who has not committed a crime? So we're going to go through it here. What is the presidential authority according to Article 2? So that way, again, if you guys have not shared this, please share the video. Please react, comment, whatever you want. Thank you so much for tuning in, you guys. And we'll continue here. This is Article 2, Section 2, Clause 1 of the President. It says this: the President shall be Commander-in-Chief of the Army, the Navy, and the United States, and the militia of the several states when called into the actual service of the United States. He may require the opinion in writing of the principal officer in each of the executive departments upon any subject relating to duties of their respective offices, and he shall have power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. Did you guys hear that? He shall have power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States. It doesn't say anything about preemptive pardon. You can just pardon people before they even get. And I'm only going by what the Constitution says. And I know people are going to comment, well, what about all those Supreme Court cases? I don't care about that stuff because Supreme Court changes their mind like they change underwear. They change laws all the time. Once something is passed, the Supreme Court annuls it. And all of a sudden, 50 years later, we're going to say, well, they didn't really mean that. We got to give it back to the states. You know what I'm saying? So those kinds of things change. And I want to talk about the history of it a little bit, and I'm getting a lot of this from the Constitution.org, Constitution Annotated, actually. And it says here, the American Revolution, when they granted the president these powers, these options to pardon people, it was because the king had that power to pardon or condemn. In our system of government, though, we don't have a king, we have a president. And so it's be very careful what we put on our presidents, Trump, whoever it is, that we don't have kings, we have presidents, presiders. They're not capable of full authority, even some of the executive actions that took place in the last administration. And we're going to go through that this Friday of what happened with a lot of our presidential actions that just happened with the executive actions from President Trump. Some good, some not so good, and we'll talk about that. But here's where it kind of has its roots. It's a prerogative of mercy that was held by the king that appeared during the King of Ine of Wessex in 1725 AD, and by 1535 they had been declared a parliament during the reign of King Henry VIII. So it gave the president this power, this option to pardon people who have committed offenses or who are wrongfully charged. So before the American Revolution, I want you to know there was like a big debate on this kind of stuff. And Edmund Randolph proposed reincorporating an exception for cases of treason. And he argued that extending pardon authority to such cases was too great of a trust that the president may himself be guilty and that the traitors may be of his own instruments. In other words, if we give this kind of pardon to the president, he may pardon his own traitors, those he sent to be traitors. So you have to be careful. And so there was a huge debate. James Wilson talked about pointing out that if the president himself were involved in treasonous conduct, he could be impeached. That was his reaction. He's like, if they do pardon someone if they unlawfully pardon somebody, we can impeach the president. And so what are the steps we can take? And is it possible for Congress or the Supreme Court to do something about this? The hard part is it's not really explicitly stated. Just like they did preemptive pardons, or President Biden did preemptive pardons, it's not explicitly stated that he can or can't do that. But what it does say, he can only pardon those who have committed crimes against our nation, those who have committed. In other words, they had to be charged with a crime. Well, Fauci wasn't charged with anything just yet. Which amazingly, you wouldn't have to pardon someone if they weren't guilty of something. That's for darn sure. Liz Cheney, what would she have been charged with? Treason, maybe? I don't know. And so Hunter Biden, there's another one. And his reasoning was, we don't want someone coming after our family. That is a dangerous thing. That means you're above the law. Why wouldn't you want someone to come after your family? And you would call it political espionage, basically. They're going to come after us because he's angry. No, if you broke a law, you should be open as the president of the United States to say, hey, check me out, man. Check my family out. We're good. And if my son is guilty, he's guilty. If Fauci really did the right thing, we would have no problem. Who cares if he's going to try to prosecute Fauci or not? If he did nothing wrong, then there should be nothing to hide. And so here's the issue here would be more of an impeachment. Could someone like a Biden be impeached afterwards? Not really. It's not really been done. It doesn't really make sense. I think what we have to think about is, did he violate his oath of office and his own authority in doing preemptive pardons? And can that be something that we prosecute them for? And that's something we have to take into consideration. I do think we should call upon Congress and the Supreme Court to check into this. There is no delegated authority that the Supreme Court or the Congress can actually do something about these pardons or these preemptive pardons. I shouldn't even call them pardons, preemptive pardons. Now, those that were in crimes and stuff like that and had sentences expedited, that you can't really touch. But preemptive, I think there's something to be said that with and I hope lawyers are looking into this right now. Are they constitutional preemptive pardons? No. According to Article 2, Section 2, Clause 1 of the Constitution of the United States, they're not legal. And it's the concept of preemptive pardons doesn't need to be tested in the courts to be known. America's not a constitutional republic, but an oligarchy of five if we don't allow our Supreme Court to do this. And I want to say this. According to the Constitution, the powers delegated to the federal government are few and defined, James Madison said. So our Constitution only gave them specifically enumerated powers. So to me, and I'm just telling you from a constitutional perspective, President Biden violated his oath of office, and I think that's treason. And I do think it's not just impeachable. I think it's a violatable offense, what he committed here. And that's something that if Congress has the gall to look into and someone to bring prosecution against, it was preemptively pardoning people without the actual authority to do so. I think these preemptive pardons should be null and void. I think the Supreme Court and Congress should say something about it, and that this president should actually look into it as well. And we're going to know more and more if they're just going to drop it by the wayside. And if they do drop it by the wayside, here's where Massey gets a little bit more on the, what do you call it? This is where I get a little bit more on the conspiracy theory type of thing. If they do end up dropping it, hi on YouTube, hi on Facebook. If they do end up dropping this and nobody prosecutes Fauci or goes after Fauci, if nobody goes after Liz and all these people that have broke the law, and we know that they've broken the law, it shows you that this was not about freedom and liberty. This was all contrived by government. And I can just tell you that bluntly and honestly. This was contrived by government if they don't go after the violators of our liberty. But Fauci knew exactly what he was doing. He knew exactly what he was doing. All these people that were in the media knew exactly what they were doing when they were saying that vaccines don't, you won't get the COVID germ or you won't get COVID if you get the vaccine. And so they knew what they were doing, and it should be punishable. But see, that's where it is. It's been found not fit. Who said that? I agree, Stacey, they said that, but nobody can show who and where and why and what constitutional authority they have to say that. And that's what makes it ridiculous. It's like no one's willing to fight for this, and that's what makes it ridiculous. So the president just got away with doing something that's not within his scope of power, and nobody's going to do anything about it. That's what makes me frustrated. And so to say, well, Fauci's off the hook. Well, wait a minute. Why? Because there was a preemptive pardon, which doesn't exist in the Constitution or the confines of the presidential power? That doesn't make sense. So that's what I'm saying, Stacey. And I'm not dogging you. I'm dogging the system. This is swamped through and through, purely unconstitutional. And nobody's been able, not even the media, nobody's been able to say if it's constitutional or not. They just say it's not fit to stand trial. That's bullcrap. It's seriously a violatable offense. And the president has been doing this for years. The presidential powers. Right, I completely agree. Fauci shouldn't be off the hook. And so please, Stacey, understand, I'm not against you. I'm more thinking with you here on there has to be more done. And that if Congress can shut down TikTok because it's a national security threat, what about past presidents who literally allowed the nation to be under lockdown by its own system? What did Fauci do? I don't know, shut down a whole nation, force people to get COVID vaccinations, was the one that was telling President Trump that we should shut down businesses and things like that. You couldn't walk anywhere without a mask on, which was found literally not even medical, actually destroying the laws of HIPAA by making people wear things like masks that had pre-existing conditions, and then forcing people to tell people what their medical exemption was. That's also a violation of HIPAA. There's plenty of things that were done. Telling churches that they had to mask up and they couldn't meet in houses of worship, that's against the First Amendment. Yeah, Fauci was responsible for a lot of this stuff, and that's treasonous is what it was. And you may disagree with that, but nobody can disagree with the fact that if Trump did this, and Trump also dropped the ball in many ways too, telling people to get the vaccine and all those other things. There was a lot of things that he didn't do, and we can all chalk it up to he didn't know. None of us didn't know. Totally fine. But again, the authority of our Constitution, or the authority of the president, the authority of Fauci, whoever it was, does not have the authority to shut you down. There's no constitutional provision that says they have this authority to shut down an entire industry, a nation. They don't have the authority to shut down states unless you want to take the 14th Amendment into something that it doesn't mean. And so talking constitutionally, none of this makes sense. So Fauci was guilty of crimes. And I will say, Tyson, and thank you for your comment, by the way, if he wasn't guilty or if he didn't do anything, why preemptively pardon? Just a question. Why preemptively pardon if there was nothing wrong? Because are they going to find him guilty if they put him in court? If there's no punishment, if there's no crime, there's no punishment. Obviously, there was something that had to be done with Fauci. Why Fauci? Where's he been the last few years? He hasn't been saying much. That's what I'm saying. There's something obviously gross here. And both parties have allowed this. So don't fool yourself in that the Republicans are right, the Democrats are wrong, and vice versa. Both parties allowed this. So I'm a constitutionalist. I'm not a Republican, Democrat. I don't buy on any side. That's not what this ministry does. We go constitutional and biblical. And all I've seen in the Bible is kings come against their own people many times. And our government has done it for many years. And so again, what say you? What do you think should be done? Or do you think that's constitutional or not constitutional? Please comment down below. If you think it's constitutional, what Biden did, okay, I can disagree with you because according to Article 2, it doesn't exist. Or B, should there be something done? Can the Supreme Court go after them? And just because people say there's no punishable offense, should we just drop it? I don't think that's right either, because some serious punishment or some serious capital offenses were done against our country during 2020 to 2023. So, guys, thank you again for tuning in. I hope you guys find this stuff. I hope you find it educational. If not, it's just a good place to talk about it, because guess what? That's what a republic does. We talk about our ideas and share them publicly. I'm all about liberty, freedom, and justice, and the American people deserve that. So, guys, God bless you. Please share this video. We'll tune in next time to our lives.